Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Legends of Tomorrow. So in this episode, we have the group popping into 2166, the year where essentially Savage is at the height of his power. And, it's roughly around the same time that Savage, ended up killing Hunter's Rip. Wife and son. And apparently at the point in time they came in, it's at least 3 days from now he'll end up killing his wife and son. And it kind of came up, it's like, why don't, we're here right now, why don't we try and do something? And he ends up telling Gray the truth that he tried multiple times, but every time he tried, he tries to go back a little bit further to try and change things. But no matter what happened, his wife and child would always die, and it's just kind of like he's got the mentality that time wants something to happen, it's going to happen. Like, it's essentially fate that nothing's going to change that, and it's just that's why he's kind of such a stickler for it. Like, if time wants something to happen, it's just going to happen, and just because he's experienced himself multiple times, having to watch his family die over and over again, no matter what he does, it just can't change anything. There was that situation where we end up meeting that lady. I think, isn't her name Cassandra? She is Savage's daughter, which I didn't see that coming. Like, there was a moment at the beginning where she looked at Snart and she kind of smiled. And, Snart was like, okay, we've been, blown. Like, like Savage's right hand, lady kind of pointed us out. At that moment, I won't lie to you, I initially thought, I was like, and he's like, well, you know my name? And it's just like, she's like, I know everyone's name. Is like, I was like, oh, because at the beginning I was thinking like she Snart's like descendant or something. That's why, because the way she was looking at him like that. But it turns out, nope, she was Savage's daughter. And very interestingly enough, like, she's kind of like, it's kind of one of those situations where you have a king and they have like a princess who's blind to the evil doings of the king. Like, you hear, you usually hear that in stories, and it turns out that this is a very similar situation because his daughter is blind to his actions. Like, she's thinking all the people that are killing all these rebels that he's wiping out are people, massing powerful weapons and trying to kill them. And she doesn't, it's not till Snart points it out to her, like, these are the people, just regular folks, people who are trying to escape the wrath of your dad that you're going around killing. And, she actually believed it was like Pythagoras, not Pythagoras, God, that's the dude with the Pythagorean theorem. It's I forgot, it's the kid who ended up growing up to become a dictator. He's the one that, I can't even remember his name. It was a freaking hard name to remember anyway. But essentially, she believes it was him who released the virus, and, that her dad stepped up to, take his place to kind of rule the people, kind of bring back order to the world after he wiped out a large chunk of humanity. But it was Snart who kind of showed her, like, nope, it was your dad. Because for one, he was a kid at the time. Like, he didn't really have any authority at that time. Granted, the kid did kill his dad, but he didn't release the virus. The virus was 100% her dad's idea. Because what hurts most about that is because she had this idea, her dad was a good guy, even if she thought, her dad was killing people, she thought her dad was killing people who were trying to cause the world harm. That, even if they were killing people, it was justified because these people are trying to uprise against, a righteous man. That's what she kind of had in her image, in her mind of Savage, which is understandable too, because it's her dad too. But what made the whole thing worse with the virus is because the virus ended up killing her mom. And interestingly enough, this is the only family Savage has ever had. It's kind of ironic in a sense, too. I'm surprised that never really came up in this episode. The fact is that Carter and Kendra had a child in the past who's dead. Now you have, like, Savage here with his own, like, daughter. It's just kind of... I'm surprised that comparison never really came up. I guess... I don't know. You would think, like, Kendra will point out that, like, the twisted irony behind it, that her son is dead, and Savage has a child of his own. It's very interesting because I don't think that we've seen, like, back in the 50s he had a wife, but it's like we've never seen him actually have a family. I guess it kind of, well, in a way, it was kind of to make him seem somewhat human, that, show that side of him where he tries to pretend to be normal when we know he's just a homicidal maniac. I don't know why I'm stumbling on my words today. to me, one of the coolest parts in this episode was that freaking robot. What's it called? Leviathan? That was so awesome. As someone who loves gigantic robots, that was sick. Granted, I kind of got a little spoiled for me because I accidentally saw one of the previews before I saw the episode, which kind of bums me out a little, but still that thing was amazing. Because it was like, oh, what's this weapon that, Savage has been using to, like, you know, kill all these people? It's not just like a regular weapon. It's not like a bomb or something. Nope, it's a gigantic freaking robot. Like, where did you get that from? Who built it from? I want answers to those questions. But I really like how it's dealt with. Freaking Ray using something from the ship. I didn't really understand it. Some scientific stuff. Essentially made himself bigger, which is very interesting. Like, I'm not familiar with the character Adam, and I know there's going to be comparisons between him and Ant-Man because they're kind of similar. You know, it's obviously Marvel and DC comparisons, but it's like I kind of vaguely know that Ant-Man could get bigger. It did cross my mind. It did come across my mind, can Adam make himself bigger? But I guess if he generates enough energy, he can. I don't know if that's going to be something you're going to see at all. Like, he might make himself bigger again, you know, with the right circumstances, but probably not to that scale. What really tripped me out about the whole thing, like, it didn't seem like something you see in a TV show. To me, it looked like something you see in a movie. Like, it legitimately, like something, I mean, obviously you would argue, it's like, oh, that didn't look like anything like Pacific Rim, but it seemed like something you see in Pacific Rim, at least to me. It kind of reminded me of that, just like two people just duking it out. But Ray ended up winning, so that was pretty badass. I guess at some point I was thinking maybe he'll shrink back down and get inside of it and kind of like, I don't know, in my mind I was kind of thinking like get inside of it and then expand and explode. I mean, you know, or maybe get on the inside, like shrink down after fighting it as a big guy and just shrinking down and just blasting the insides and finding a way. But, you know, being massive and just knocking its head off is pretty cool too. I did like the fact is that after its head kind of got knocked off, it was reaching for its head. That was pretty cool. We also have Kendra doing... Like, she finds the bracelet because that's what Cassandra has, and she ends up melting it down and putting it on Carter's weapon, the mace. And when the time comes and she ends up going up against Savage, thanks to, you know, Cassandra ended up getting them inside, she was whooping his ass. I was like, holy crap, you go, Kendra. Because she did kind of get a flashback of when Carter taught her back in the day. I think it was like Iowa City... 1941. I'm surprised that freaking... I can't remember the kid's name, but I can remember dates like that. I think that's interesting. But anyway, she was kicking his ass pretty well. And then you had that one soldier that was in there, and then she was fighting him off and about to knock him. I was like, oh man, why this? That's kind of interesting. Is that one guy? I was like, because I knew something was going to stop her. Because Mick even brought it up in his episode. He's like, yeah, like you've never had to actually kill anyone before. So when the time comes, will you be able to do it? So I was like, okay, her humanity is going to stop her from killing Savage. I was like, okay, and this guy's interrupting. I was like, okay, what? I was like, there's going to be something that stops her. What it is? Turns out the guy that attacked her is freaking Carter. Like basically, Savage messed with his memories and made him not even realize who he is. So he's just kind of essentially a zombified servant. So, and apparently he's kind of locked away Carter's mind, and the only one who can unlock it is him because he's the only one that knows how to. And Rip is there saying like, kill him. You know, she's like, but it's for Carter. She's like, it's Carter or my wife and son, and it's just like I can't do it. It's just like honestly, in a situation like that, it's hard to say because it's like obviously me, I'm like, no, F it. Kill Savage now. We have him against the ropes. Bash his brains in if you have to. But then at the same time, it's like, well, Kendra's, you know, her heart, even though she's in love with Ray, her heart still longs for Carter. He's her soulmate. They've been soulmates for 4,000 years, for over 200 lives. So it's kind of hard to like break the, like, I need to save him. I need to protect him. That mentality. It's not something you can easily break. So I understand on that regards, but it's just like, you had the chance. Kill the SOB. But they ended up taking him captive. And, you know, because of a conversation with Ray, Rip's kind of got in his head. Like, he's like, maybe I can change things. Maybe it's not fate for my wife and daughter to die. I mean, wife and son to die. Sorry. But, you know, Savage is kind of like, oh, but we'll see. You know, he's like, we'll just have to see. Time will tell. And it's just like, what is that bastard planning? He's locked up in a cell, but it's just like, you know, he's going to get away somehow. But it's like, the question is how. Like, I just have no idea where it's going to, like, this whole situation. I mean, because we all knew Carter was going to come back in some shape or form. Granted, I was thinking it was going to be a little sooner than this, but at this point, I did like the circumstances he came back. There was something like that, him actually being someone serving Savage. It would have been really interesting if he was like a well-known general or something. Like he was like legitimately Savage's left-hand man. He's got his like daughter as his right-hand man. Let Carter be his left-hand man, just to be like, oh, here I am manipulating the man who's wanted to kill me for thousands of years. You know, it's like my greatest enemy is here serving me as a brainwashed stooge. I don't know. I think that would have had more impact. Not saying it didn't have impact, but I think that would have been even more interesting than what we got. But still interesting in itself. And there's that whole like situation between Cassandra and Snart. I was kind of catching a little bit of that. It's just like, I don't know. In the back of my mind, I was like, just the way they were talking to each other, I was like, that could be a thing. That they'd be kind of cute. At least I thought. You know, this is, I mean, granted, it's a little creepy because, like I said, after the fact is, you know, it's a little creepy because beforehand I thought she was his descendant. I'm not saying that, you know, this was after you found out that she was Savage's daughter. It was kind of, I think it'd be kind of interesting if they hooked up or something, but yeah. I don't know. It just seemed like they kind of had that, I don't know. I really liked just how, what was that thing Mick said in this episode? I remember now. It's basically when Savage was having his speech and he's like, shh, you know, keep it down. I kind of want to hear this. This guy actually makes a pretty good speech. It's like, you're so twisted, Mick, for saying some crap like that. It's, I just love Mick to death. He's so amazing because it's like, Kendra's like, can you help me burn something? He's just like, great. I thought you'd never ask. And then he made that, like, he was very blunt when the fact is, yeah, it's close. Like, he just bluntly, yeah, Savage brutally murders your wife and son. And everyone kind of looks at him. He's like, what? And Hunter's like, yes, it's when he kills my wife and son. It's just like, he just holds nothing back. I love him for it. But it just makes you wonder, like, where are things going to go from here? They do have Savage captured, but it's not like he's going to willingly help Carter, you know, especially considering the circumstances. But it's just like, I wasn't exactly expecting that. Like I said, we all knew something was going to stop Kendra from doing it. Just wasn't expecting it to be Carter. So that was very interesting, though. But, you know, now that this whole Carter situation happened, we didn't get to see it this episode, but, you know, we saw the ending where Kendra's like, yo, Ray, we have to talk, you know, because it's like, okay, why didn't you kill Savage? He's like, I asked Sarah about it. She was a little cagey on the details, and it's just like, we already knew that complication was going to come up, especially in this episode when she was like so adamant about it, like, oh, Carter's my past, Ray is my future. It's like, I knew she'd end up eating those words eventually, just didn't know it would be this soon, like immediately, like maybe 20-30 minutes later after saying that, she has to eat those words. So but that's really all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.